Beruchim Abayim, and welcome to Torah Talks Chazaq's program with special guests. We have with us Rabbi Dovid Nojowitz Rabbi and Rabbi Yisroel Meir Rubinfeld. Beruchim Abayim, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
It's an honor. It's always great to have you back at the Chazaq headquarters, all the way from Flatbush, Torah Masara. And we're going to be speaking about Chinuch, education. And before we do that, we can get a little background of the Rabbanim, great work that you're involved with in Torah Masara. Rabbi Nojowitz will start.
Baruch Hashem came to Torah Masara some 17 years ago after spending 25 years running a kollel in Melbourne, Australia, which was fascinating.
Shout out to Nojowitz.
Well, shout out to Nojowitz, no question, yes.
Our dear friend.
Yes,
okay.
yes. And Baruch Hashem from there somehow ended up coming back to the States. I'm originally a Brooklyn boy, went to Torah Das, went to Lakewood. And for the last 17 years, I had the opportunity to work with people like Rabbi Yisroel Meir Rubinfeld and others who are totally, their whole life mission is educating Jewish children. Around the world, and even in Queens, New York.
Really?
And Queens, New York.
Okay, amazing.
Yes,
we get to know and to see, and Bezat Hashem work even more.
The well-known story is told over by Rav Shraga Feivel Mendelovitz, who
Founder of Torah
the founder of Torah Masara some 80 years ago. When he started, some people said, you're out of your mind, you're making schools all over the country, what are you doing? So his answer was, I'll say it first in Yiddish, Was hat euch as 50,000 Kinderlach zugen Kriyashma? Why does it bother you if I'm going to be able to get 50,000 children to say Shema Yisrael?
Wow.
And that's, I guess that was his inspiration. That's how he inspired so many other people to get involved. And slowly but surely, the first school I believe they made was in Minneapolis. And today, Baruch Hashem, we have something like 800 schools across the United States and Canada with about 300,000 children.
Wow. Unbelievable.
And of that, 20,000 men and women who are teachers, Rebbeim, lowers.
Rabbi Rubinfeld, Shilita.
I joined Torah Masara about 16 years ago. I started off my journey in life as a Talmud of Chaim Berlin. And from there I went to the Mir Yeshiva in Yerushalayim, and then on to Beis Medrash Gevor. I was a Rebbe for many years, Yeshiva Brooklyn, Yeshiva Chaim Berlin. And then I became a Menahel. And after many years of being a Menahel, Rabbi Nojowitz drafted me into Torah Masara. And
Caught a big fish.
And there's so much that we tried to cover. Like Rabbi Nojowitz said, our focus is on Jewish children. By doing, with that being our goal, we're educating teachers to become the best teachers they can be. We're educating and coaching principals to be able to create the best schools and maintain the best schools. And we work on educating, coaching, even executive directors to be able to run the schools in the most optimal way. We visit the schools, we work with the schools, we work with the teachers, we help find them jobs, we help find the candidates for the schools that need to have candidates placed, and we spread Hashem's word throughout the world.
Amazing, unbelievable.
If I can do a follow-up on
sure.
and further on what Rabbi Rubinfeld was saying, it's not an exaggeration to say between the various different training programs that we have that 2,000 Rebbeim today and Morris, probably even more like 2,500 for that matter, have been trained through Torah Masara across the country. And we have a Mashkichim program as an example. We have many children who are there in school. A teacher has a classroom with 30 boys. It's hard for him to pick up every single nuance of every single child. So we've had an arrangement with schools where one of the Rebbeim becomes sort of the mashgiach, or I guess where we'll use a mini therapist, if you wish. And when the Rebbe senses that this child needs something special, he works with this Rebbe. And the same, we have a program of DLI, Diverse Learners Initiative, where a child is mentally healthy, but he has problems in learning. Now, ordinarily, we would send a child into the resource room. And until now, the resource room teacher would, whatever the teacher said to work on, that's what work on. But we've trained resource room teachers now to see the telltale signs of problems deeper than just the learning. And we'll work with them as well. And that's
unbelievable. You know, the one that's involved, I would think that I knew it all, but I must tell you that Chinuch, it's such an insight to know that there's an organization out there, and I'm sure many of our listeners are watching this and are be like, really, there's such a thing exists? Like, as parents, we send the kids to the yeshiva, they come back, they have the homework, they go back to yeshiva, and that's that. But there's so much internal work that's being done. So Yishakach, Chazaq work to you all and to Torah Mesorah. Now, I remember I had the schut, the merit to be invited to the Vada Rosh Yeshivas meeting, where you have the Rosh Yeshivas, the big Rabbanim of America together in a room at the Torah Mesorah headquarters. And I was waiting patiently for my turn, and I remember the discussions backwards and forwards, so much different issues in Klal Yisrael that the rabbis were dealing with. And it's constant changing, and with I understand there's constant meetings. If you would say an issue that's going on today in Klal Yisrael, in the world of yeshivas, of what would that be? And what is a way that Torah Mesorah is tackling it? And if there's anything maybe the average listener could also get involved, or a parent, let's say, that sent kids to yeshivas, what could they do to help? I'm sorry for throwing so many fatwas at the rabbis, but one thing I remember vividly was technology was a discussion. It was a discussion back then. There was some sort of a new thing that came out. The Rosh Yeshivas were going backwards and forwards. It was very inspiring to see.
So there are many different things, as I usually say when my children ask me something, and I ask them, can you keep a secret? And they say yes, and they say, so can I. So much of what is discussed there at these
meetings within the Rabbanim Mahanjo.
But as far as when you have technology, obviously AI is an issue today.
Sorry for my ignorance, Rabbi. AI.
Wonderful.
Rabbi Rubinfeld.
Aleichem Brocha.
That's right. Unbelievable.
But
I thought I was behind the times.
You mentioned technology.
Right.
And one of the things that we try to do is to try to stay a little bit ahead of explosions so that we could prepare our educators and our parents in dealing with what's coming down the pike. You go back years ago, it was television. Right. From there it became the internet. From there we went to the social media, iPhones and so on. Now there seems to be something that we're headed to, that our Rosh Yeshiva have been alerted to, and that's something called AI, which stands for artificial intelligence. It's something that will probably make internet problems almost seem to be juvenile. It's taking over. It's already taken over different parts of the world, and it's starting to take over this country, whether it's production and businesses, where in places like Japan, probably 75% of people have been replaced by these machines that are run by AI. And there are a lot of issues that the country will have with it. It's being discussed in the government and the White House. But in terms of the ruchnius of children or families being exposed to information, but it's not like we call the what do they call, the information highway or something, the web. This is more instantaneous than anything on the internet. Information about anything in the world that you have access to, not only by the stroke of a key, but by a phone call. They have today phone numbers that you can call, ask questions about anything in Yiddish, and get answers in Yiddish. They're able to, we were joking before about changing voices, and there's incredible amount of things that are able to be done. And there's some things might, no doubt, be beneficial. But what people are realizing, both in the secular world, lahavdil, and in our world, the dangers that are ahead of us. So, you don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
Up until 2 or 3 weeks ago, I didn't know what it was either. Until we had
to your neighborhood in the next week.
we had a meeting at the office, and it was brought up, and then I started doing some of my own research to learn about it, and it's going to turn into a mountain.
The dangers are, amongst others, a child can ask a hashkafa question and take it to the biggest extreme. How can I show that the Torah is not true? And within a matter of seconds, you'll have 3 pages of reasons why the Torah, chas v'sholom, is not true. Children could ask hashkafa questions in that light, and so on. Someone told me an interesting question. He asked it, what bracha do you make on chocolate? And it ended up with 10 pages from the Gemara all the way down to the Mishnah Berurah.
Wow.
They got it wrong. The halacha l'maaseh got it wrong. Okay? But the same will be with hashkafa. They'll ask hashkafa questions. It'll give you whole things, but it'll come out wrong. And this is just one side of what children start asking.
One of the Rosh Yeshiva that spoke about it commented that it relates to you like a friend. You speak to it, and it seems to have reasoning, logic. It's working with these algorithms, and it's able to put together thoughts and response instantaneously to things that you say, and you start having some kind of a trust. We were shown little video clips from Reb Moshe Hillel Hirsch, Reb Malkiel Kotler, Rav Sorotskin. There was another.
But I don't recall it forceful. Anyway, yeah.
That spoke about the great dangers that there is in not, it was mentioned by one of the Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbi Bachsvogel was the other one.
Yes.
One of the things that he said was that the Satan started sensing that maybe we're getting a handle on the smartphones with filters and so on, that it said, you know what, we have to come up with something else. Doesn't sleep, and it came up with this. And the dangers that it presents to us by being so accessible, so easy. There's no, the internet, perhaps with filters and other ways for business, we can find the Torah. The Gedolim, both in the Litvish world and in the Hasidic world, have both declared that there's not any heter for anybody to use it for any reason at all. There's just no, it's just too dangerous. And one of the biggest dangers is that the average person might look at it and say, so what's so bad? But it's so easy. It's just a phone call, or getting onto the internet and asking the questions. I mean, we saw a demonstration of what it was like, and it was mind-boggling.
Wow, unbelievable. The fact that you're dealing all this details, and the Amcha, the public, is not even aware. Your Shagach, he really appreciate it, and Halavai Bezat Hashem, through the Gedolim, the Rabbanim that you're all involved with, well, Bezat Hashem have a certain derech that the Klal Yisrael will be able to go in through the yeshivas. Jumping to the yeshivas again, I remember that there was a discussion in one of the local yeshivas that there's a lack of Rebbeim or Morris. Being that you're involved with Torah Masara, is there any truth to that? I know at the same time we were discussing before, and I remember hearing about a campaign to give proper salaries or better salaries to the Rebbeim and the Mechanechim and the Moras that give their lives to our children. If the rabbis could shed some light on that topic, and if there's any ways...
Unfortunately, it certainly is a problem. I mean, we have teachers dedicate their lives to their students. So much so, as one person recently brought up, don't forget about your own families. You're so involved with your students and with your school and with your preparations. Don't forget about your own children.
Wow.
They're also some, but that's how dedicated the teachers are. And they sit back and, unfortunately, they're human beings, okay? They're not AI. They're real people, and real people have feelings too. And many a times, the amount of work that they put in no way shows any sense of appreciation. One example would be in terms of the salaries. That would be just one. There are many other ways. Some yeshivas, Baruch Hashem, show a Rebbe, and he makes a chasna, a marriage or a trial, they'll give him $10,000. Or different programs today, Baruch Hashem, have things with, for Yom Tov, for Pesach or for Sukkot, they're able to.
The last few years, I feel like that started becoming more.
But Kenai Har, these are usually large families, and they need more. And there's a wide world out there, and especially when they start seeing so many of their kaverim who have not taken into the areas of chinuch, and they see financially how it makes an impression. So we have to give them the appreciation for what it is for them to be a Rebbe.
Sorry about that.
And it's been happening. It's been happening over the years. Torah Mesorah had an initiative where they played a significant role in Rabbeim getting increases in salaries. More recently, they played a huge role in the Moros getting increases in salaries. And it's created a wave in the communities, frustration among the fundraisers, because they have to come up to the plate and they have to match it, and not all the schools are able to do that matching. So it's created a competitiveness because some schools are paying more. But we're doing a lot of that kind of campaigning to encourage the men and the women to stay in the chinuch field, to go into the chinuch field,
to join
like they used to. That idealism is not as strong as it used to be. The idealism, the idea of going out of town, doesn't have the same allure that it used to have. Partially because cities like Lakewood are becoming more and more of an attraction. More and more parents and in-laws are moving to Lakewood, so it's becoming more and more challenging to leave. And Baruch Hashem, Lakewood is working tirelessly at increasing the kollel checks. Right. So they're not running to leave kollel so quickly because they don't feel like they have that need. But we still have our teacher training programs around the country. In Lakewood itself, we have the HDUS program, which services many, many Jungerleit every year. And we're doing the training and the encouraging and the placing and the mentoring and the coaching to be successful so that we can make sure that we have those that are the best caliber and best trained to teach the children of the next generation.
And this generation is not the same as previous generations, whereas previous generations, it was enough for a Rebbe to know the page of Gemara with the Rashi and the Tosfos. Today, a Rebbe has to be so attuned to the child, because the child has so many distractions, right, and so many different things going on in his mind. And the Rebbe has to be able to be there to constantly motivate, constantly give the child structure. He's become a Rebbe and a therapist all in one.
All in one.
And it changes so rapidly. What Rav Hutner said maybe 60 years ago, that in those days a generation is 5 years. Today could be 5 minutes. It's constantly changing. And our educators, teachers, principals, they need to recognize that the student sitting in front of them might be different than the student that sat in front of them just a couple of months ago, certainly a couple of years ago. And we have to get the direction from our Gedolim as to what should be changed, what can't be changed, how to address the new challenges that we're confronted with, literally from day to day, to learn what those challenges are and how to tackle them. It's
100%. And also with regards to Rebbeim, I heard something amazing one time, and I share with a lot of Rebbeim, that it's no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. The amount of time and effort they have to put into each child and be there for them and discuss it with them. And I see what's with the Rebbeim for my children. God bless them. They're amazing. And Baruch Hashem, and they're part of the Torah Masorah network, and it's definitely, trickling down to the Rebbeim. So you guys are definitely doing an amazing job. The next is as follows. Chazaq, as we all know, is involved with placing kids from public schools to yeshivas. And Baruch Hashem, we had Dismaya and success. And many times parents ask as a simple question. I want to ask the rabbis, being that you're the professionals, there's so many options sometimes. They feel like there's this yeshiva and that yeshiva, this one and that one. In your opinions, what would you say when looking for yeshiva? This could be for, someone leaving a certain town, going to another town. There's the options for yeshivas. What were some of the characteristics or some of the lookouts that parents should have in a yeshiva or in a rebbe or in a minal or in a campus?
I would say that it should be a yeshiva or Beis Yaakov that gives the children the feeling of Bonim Atem Lashem Lakechem. You are God's children. You are so close to God, and He has such a love for you, and therefore how much the child should appreciate who he is, to understand he's a wealthy person. As an example, I once saw written by Rabbi Aaron Kotler, Zeres Ad Livracha. It says, imagine a person is living in a hovel, poor as can be, but under the floorboards are $1 million. He's a wealthy man, he just doesn't know it. These children have to recognize how wealthy they are. They are bonim, they are children of Hashem.
Yeshivas did instill that in them, and they need to recognize that. Rabbi Rubinfeld, what do you say with regards to certain yeshivas, which...
Well, it certainly depends on what level we're talking about. Starting school, high school, Beis Medrash. When Shmuel Kamenetsky is asked this question in Lakewood, how to choose a school, so he often would say, the one closest to your house. But I speak to Rabbeim and teachers often the beginning of the school year when they're ready to have that first orientation session with parents. And a lot of them come prepared with their curriculum and their rules and how they go about contacting the teacher when there's an issue. What I say from my own experience of being at many orientations for my own children is that I believe what most parents want to hear when they hear about a teacher, or when they hear from a teacher at the beginning of the year, they want to feel that their child is going to be safe. Their child is going to be loved. Their child is going to be safe. The child is not going to be ridiculed in public. The child is not going to be abused in any way. And they want to feel that confidence. Anything else is secondary. Yeah, they want to know the curriculum, and they want to know some of the other things as well. But I think when I was a parent and I came to these orientations, and I got that feeling that this Rebbe is going to love my child, that's all I cared about. Everything else will fit into place. And I think that's important on many levels. Of course, we're dealing with high school Beis Medrash. It depends what community you're coming from, what school you're coming from, the strengths of the child. If I could just say the biggest challenge, I think, that exists by many families is the nisayon of parents trying to find a school for their son or daughter that will fit into their social background more so than what's good for the child.
I see that all the time.
And that's a big challenge that needs to be broken through, and guiding parents and finding the best school for their
child and not for their egos. I see that all the time. Parents are, I want my son at this specific school because this family, that family there. But for the child.
And sometimes it's for good reasons. Sometimes they want to identify with a certain community, with a certain level of religiosity, whatever it might be. but the first and foremost has to be what's best for my child.
100%. I agree. Unbelievable. Child first, children first. Rabbi Nojowitz and Rabbi Rubinfeld, we have a custom, a final message on Torah Talks. So many beautiful gems that we appreciate your time. It means so much to us and to our audience. So I guess we'll start with Rabbi Nojowitz and jump to Rabbi Rubinfeld.
Okay, I don't think as quickly as Rabbi.
Okay, so we'll jump to Rabbi Rubinfeld. We'll give Rabbi. There will be a message, a takeaway that you want to give to the Klal Yisrael.
We're living in a time where there are those, certainly in the community at large, the Goyish communities, and even has seeped into our communities. Everything is bleak. We have a very, very negative future ahead of us. The country is going to pot. Even in our own communities, things seem to be going downhill. My message is we have a great, bright future ahead of us. We have great teachers. We have great principals, loving and concerned parents, and taking Klal Yisrael into the next generation and assisting our children and our parents, our educators, to bring that generation to be able to greet Mashiach. There's a beautiful future ahead of us.
Love the positivity, Rabbi Rubinfeld. 100%. The Mitzvah Shem Amen. Rabbi Nojowitz, Shlita.
I thought there is a Gemara in Masechta Bava Metzia, I believe, that speaks of a story where one of the rabbis of the Gemara had a group of porters carry his wine, and they were negligent and they dropped it. So he quickly took their coats as collateral to get his money back from them. And they ran to one of the heads of the academy, I guess, and said, he took away our coats. So the rabbi said, return the coats to him. The rabbi asked him, is that the law? He says, no, that's not the law per se, but the law is you have to go beyond the call of duty. You're a rabbi, you have to be able to go beyond the call of duty, and you must therefore return for that reason. Lifnim Meshuras Hadin, to go beyond what has to be expected. This is a message that we have to be able to give over to children, that they have to have such a love for their Yiddishkeit that I may not have to do it, but it's so Jewish, I want to be able to do it. I want to be able to do it.
Amazing, Rabbi Nojowitz, Rabbi Rubinfeld. Thank you so much for those words of wisdom, words of inspiration, for the chizuk, for the inspiration, for all that you do for Klal Yisrael, for the Jewish people. Torah Mesorah, keep it up. Amazing work. On behalf of Chazaq, we
thank you for the opportunity.
100%. And we want to thank of all of our platforms for hosting Chazaq Torah Talks. Tuesday nights, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Shout out to Torah Anytime for hosting as well. Daily giving $1 a day goes very far away. And thank you very much for everyone for joining us. Shukach.
Thank you.
Thank you.